Welcome back, my friends, to the show that never ends, your daily delivery of all things Dog Pound Browns 3D over here now at the OBR. Appreciate everybody, for venturing over here. Keep subscribing to the YouTube channel and obviously where you can get the video and the audio content. Certainly be sure to check out all the written work. Guys over there are just putting out a great amount of content for you all. So make sure you're on that. And of course, checking out the Insider. Look, lots of nuggets are dropping there. And those of you who have it, how about telling your friends? Because you guys are hearing things there that are hitting the mainstream media, a little time afterwards. And just remember where you got it first. So encourage your friends to join along for the ride. Pete Smith, of course, is here. We're going to get to some championship picks. Pete was diligent and a lot of effort in putting together a Senior Bowl preview. Certainly the Browns are going to have some hands-on experience down there. They will be down there as a contingent, as they should be, with a full asset of draft picks this year, and obviously a very important draft for Andrew Berry and Kevin Stefanski. Let's start here, I guess, Pete. We got to know Tommy Rees a little bit better yesterday, and you love the story, certainly. As a guy who basically got his start here, whetting his football appetite all those years ago as a kid, you do get the feeling that, this organization does mean something to him. Wish the media guys, and we've said this for years, let's not throw up biscuits. You have an opportunity here where, you got these guys alone. And I'm not saying it's untimed, but it's not necessarily timed. You'd like to be able to poach them a little bit more. Obviously there's things they won't give up, but you always got to, basically push the needle a little bit to see what you can get. And Pete, I will give you credit. I don't know if we said it on air or if maybe me and you said it, obviously just in our conversations between each other. I was wondering if there was going to be an opportunity for Rees elsewhere. He did say there was. I thought it was maybe going to be New England. You figured that, Vrabel was not going to basically take his, prized pig in Drake May and offer it up to a first-time OC. And, that's how we got the weird, Josh McDaniels third time there. But Brown's new offense coordinator, hitting the ground running, hopefully.
Yeah, well, just from the Patriots standpoint, it's interesting. They didn't get Tommy Rees, but they did hire Ashton Grant and gave him the opportunity to coach up Drake May, which is a huge opportunity for him, for somebody who's been here for 5 years and wasn't the quarterback's coach in name, but did an awful lot of work. If you watched Hard Knocks, that's him in a lot of those meetings. But yeah, Tommy Rees, look, he's a smart guy. He's very well regarded. There were people that were interested in him. Les Miles was trying to poach him to LSU. North Carolina obviously had some interest, and there were some other thoughts. But the situation he finds himself is that he's not getting the keys fully, which might be good for him. He's been a play caller twice, once for 1 year in Notre Dame and 1 year at Alabama. So he benefits by having a very veteran play caller in Kevin Stefanski that can sort of help ensure that he's successful and hopefully push the envelope in terms of what Kevin Stefanski wants to do and get him to continue to expand on some of the stuff that he's trying to employ. So we'll see what it looks like. And then the news that he said, I don't know if we're hiring a quarterback's coach. And then almost 5 minutes later, that the Giants assistant quarterback's coach had interviewed for the job. I'm going to guess, I don't know this for sure, that Ashton Grant at least interviewed for it. So they're going to, everything seems to point to the fact that they're going to get a quarterback's coach specifically. And then they still need a tight ends coach. Their assistant defensive line coach is going to Boston College to be their defensive line coach, although he still seems to be slated to go work with the defensive linemen down at the Senior Bowl, including TJ Sanders, who looks like the absolute perfect fit for the Browns. So there's that element of it. So they've got a lot of coaching stuff to get figured out. And part of the reason it's taking a minute is because the Browns have to wait for some of these dominoes to play out. For example, TC McCartney was had worked for the Browns up until last year. And then when Alex Van Pelt took the offensive job, with the New England Patriots, he hired T.C. McCartney to be the quarterback's coach. Obviously, Drake May looks very promising, but they've decided, they obviously hired Ashton Grant. They're not going to retain T.C. McCartney. So whether the Browns are actually going to go down that road or even interview him, I have no idea. But because of the amount of changeover that's happening at all these teams, a lot of people are looking at this from the wrong end, where they feel like there's a race against time to sort of hire people fast, when in some of these cases, it may be waiting to see some of these things sort of play themselves out. I mean, we saw today the Bobby Sloak was fired. And no, I'm not suggesting he's going to be a quarterback's coach, but just a sort of another wrinkle that adds into everything else that's sort of going on as far as coaching and around the league.
Yeah, it's like different from like a free agency cycle, like, because it seems like, obviously now once these teams are getting their new guys in there, I know the Bears were a prime example. He's gone. And, not saying you're going to go, run down anybody that just, basically got, released from the Bears staff. But you're seeing, just the way it works. And, like there's waves of free agency. No, it's just, the way the players, are getting, their attention, and getting, bid on, et cetera. Whereas here, with each hire getting entrenched in, it does, open up the opportunity now that more guys kind of hit the market, something that kind of maybe happens, leading up to the draft. You get, some late guys where it didn't work out financially, and even after the draft where maybe, a spot opens up or two that a guy is available. So certainly working that way. I just want to touch on this one, just, look, NFL wise, the whole Liam Cohen situation with Tampa. Now, obviously, Cohen had basically told them he was not going to take a second interview. We all know the reason why. Then it was announced he was going to take this, massive deal to remain the offensive coordinator with Tampa Bay. And unfortunately now Baker Mayfield will be moving on to yet again another offensive coordinator. How it exactly worked, what is real and what is not, as far as what Liam Cohen was doing and what Liam Cohen was not doing. And I don't even want to mention the aspect of the kid, because obviously there was something going on there, but the rest of it, who even knows to that point. But I think why, for me, Pete, none of this matters to me, because I think this was like such a back room, feels like it was done like on an episode of Sopranos type of deal, that just found its way to light. It's not the first time something like this is done. And I still remember way back in the day, Bill Belichick taking $1 million out of Leon Hess's dying hand, and then basically telling him the next day, I had an epiphany. This is not working for me.
Yeah, I think Liam Cohen's situation with the Bucs is between him and the Bucs and those players. I look at this more of Jaguars dysfunction. Maybe it works that they were able to do this, but it just reeks of an organization that can't get out of its own way. And hey, let's not rule out the possibility they just go hire Trent Baalke back now and just say screw it.
But you got your money. Now we're bringing our guy back.
Yeah, I mean, it's great for Liam Cohen in the sense that he's probably getting $75 million out of the Jaguars. But like, yeah, I don't. I mean, not that long ago, when the prospect of firing the coach and the GM, Trent Baalke, was brought up, Shad Khan described that as suicidal. So apparently he has done the deed at this point, given that was only a few weeks ago. But like, this is, I mean, I suppose on one hand you credit Khan for sort of being willing to change his mind, but it looks bad from optically. And then, if this blows up in 2 years, is anyone going to be surprised? No. So that's, this is just sort of typical Jaguars behavior.
You just can't, ever seem to just, put together a path and, and stick with the path. Hopefully, this is the one that maybe, for Jacksonville turns it around. But I don't know. It just seems like a whole lot of like, pearl clutching for me. And, look, this is a business unlike any other. And look, at the end of the day, Liam Cohen went and took a job that was greater than the job he had. And look, once Baalke got canned, Tampa, I get it. I truly get it. I think you thought you had a verbal agreement, maybe a handshake agreement. Obviously, it was not signed. But at the end of the day, obviously he had interest in going. There was something that held him back. That something was no longer there. And yeah, it's not like he was entrenched. And maybe Tampa's in this odd situation where we made the playoffs twice with Todd Bowles. But we know 9-7 or 10-7 Todd Bowles is the best version of Todd Bowles there is. You had one choice if you truly, wanted him, and it was probably to move on from Todd Bowles. But, it's kind of difficult to move on from a head coach that took you to the playoffs 2 straight years. Look, it is what it is. And look, it's not the first time for Baker. It's certainly probably not going to be the last time for Baker that he's going to, deal with a new offensive coordinator. Look, it's business. And at the end of the day, things, and always being, a kid, always remember my father, why do things end badly? Well, things end badly because if they didn't end badly, most likely they would not end. So that's that. Pete put together, and I got to be honest, what's going on down in Mobile, and certainly obviously Texas as well here, for the Shrine Bowl. It's really, a great semblance, of what's going on here for both of these bowl games. And it just adds to it as, you can bring in the younger players to this now and just makes the spectacle even bigger. But I mean, the talent, and Pete, because, you put so much time into this, the talent that is going to be in Mobile, I mean, is off the charts. I mean, you look at, some of these defensive line rooms, you look at some of these offensive line rooms, it's just immense. And, it should be an insane, crazy week. And, the Browns, this is going to be an offseason, that they really haven't had in a few years now, just because they didn't have certainly, the high round picks, or they certainly didn't have the need necessarily for so many young players to be a part of this team. And, it'll still be, pretty veteran based here. But there is a chance, and the Browns don't have to do it. There'll be a chance, most likely, that they're choosing to do it, where this team can get younger and can certainly get cheaper. And Mobile's got a lot to offer.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of the time with the Senior Bowl and stuff like this, it always looks loaded. And then you get there and you find out, half a dozen of the top
X, Y, and Z, of course.
So we'll see how much of that has happened. We are the second you saw the Ohio State Notre Dame guys, it was dubious that any of them were going to participate. They literally just played the championship Monday. And it's not an easy ask to turn around if they're hurt or they've been enjoying the buffet circuit a little bit and haven't been training in this last week or whatever. It's just not a very not a surprise to see some of those guys dropped out. So Will Howard, the safety from Notre Dame, Xavier Watts or whatever his name is, and one of the defensive, Ty Hamilton, I think from Ohio State, are some of the guys that have dropped out. I don't know if we're missing somebody. I don't know if Riley Leonard's going to participate or not. To me, I think he benefits from going. But overall, talent is very good. Obviously, the changes they've made to allow juniors to participate, whether they've graduated or not, has been a huge lift. You're getting a lot more players. The overall, like the bottom of the roster, is not nearly as weak as it has been in previous years. Yes, there are a couple very small schoolers that are going to be there. But by and large, it's a pretty good field. Now, there are some positions that I don't think offer a ton. Wide receiver still does not do much for me. Not really sure corner does either. But offensive, defensive line, it should be really, really good. The quarterbacks, we'll see how much they do. But it's one of the more compelling groups of this week. And then running back is just ridiculously loaded. And tight end is pretty good.
Now, obviously we're going to stick here, but just real quick, I mean, with the way, this college season has ended now, and, these guys basically just finishing up, this week with their seasons, of course, speaking about the Ohio State guys and the Notre Dame guys, it's understandable, certainly, that they're not going to go down here and do this. But, where does it put them maybe on track, some of these guys, for maybe the combine itself? Because you wonder if for some of these guys, right off the bat, you need some rest. You know what I'm saying? You can't just shut it down, for this week, enjoy it. Obviously, do some social events that you got to do, required to do by your school. And then all of a sudden Monday, all right, well, how can I get my fastest 40 time? How fast can I get my 225 to the most max that I think I can do? It puts a lot of these guys in an odd position.
Yeah, I mean, I used Abdul Carter as an example. I don't think there's any shot he's doing anything athletically until pro day. There's just that was before he hurt his shoulder. But with the shoulder, you've got that. But like, yeah, there's a rest element, there's a getting healthy element, and then there's actually getting down to training. And at some point, yeah, I mean, like rest is going to be a real thing. And you may see some of these guys just not do athletic testing because it's just not worth it. Because you have that grind from, in the case of Ohio State, a 16-game season to then the draft process, then you're almost right into camp. And you end up with what is basically 2 straight years of football. And then you go, oh, they're going to run to the rookie wall. Well, yeah, they haven't had a break. You worry about guys not being able to sustain. I mean, like this was a big thing for Marvin Harrison Jr. was that like he wasn't going to do that stuff because he didn't need to, which puts him in sort of a unique position. But he was more worried about being ready for the Arizona Cardinals. So, yeah, that part is going to be a big deal. We'll see just how much of an impact it has because some of these guys are still going to want to put those numbers out because teams want to see them. But the flip and the unfortunate part of that whole thing is like teams, both college and pro, are getting really good at the tracking stuff. And you can, watch the tape. PFF has their, game adjusted speed scores and stuff like that. So like, yeah, it still matters, but it's more useful for us because we don't have access to some of this information. So this is all we get. Whereas teams might be like, yeah, we're cool with this. So that's another sort of factor that we have to sort of wait and see how that plays out.
Now, certainly, Browns, anywhere, any possibility, no stone unturned. I mean, basically, if you say his name is, Billy Broken Glass, and he's listed as a quarterback, wherever he is, you got to go do deep research. This is just how bad it is, certainly for this team right now, and the need of it all for this team. But, 2 names, certainly, and to say that they're higher in the quarterback rankings doesn't necessarily mean that they are high in the quarterback rankings in this class. But 2 of them will be with, Bubba Ventrone's squad. And certainly, one, it'll be a name that probably it's just not going to go away as far as being mentioned with the Cleveland Browns. Tommy Rees, certainly understandably, as, for one of the biggest reasons for that. But, Jackson Dart, certainly Jalen Milroe, and the fact that, they will be, working with, a staff that is led by Bubba Ventrone, and certainly the thirst for the need at the position for Cleveland.
Yeah, I mean, Jalen Milroe and Jackson Dart are the show, as far as I'm concerned. I know people are very excited about, the quarterbacks from Ohio State, Notre Dame, fine. But, like, unless you're taking one of those top 2, these are the next 2 guys. And it's deciding, are they worth potentially trading up into the first round? Are there teams in the first round that they might need to get ahead of in that scenario? Or are they, comfortable potentially waiting and seeing if they're around in round 3? And both of these guys have nightmare football games from this past season. Milroe was awful against Oklahoma and not great against Michigan. And then Jackson Dart had that meltdown against Florida. But they are both supremely talented in terms of the physical ability, movement skills, size, arm strength, and all those type of things. And, those are things that will get people excited, and they have to make the determination on if they can be first they have to identify what is wrong and then how they get past it. And then, evaluate things like their, learning capacity and processing and all those things. And are they coachable? How are they as far as the locker room goes? And that part, I think that part is where being coaching the Senior Bowl is super valuable. You do they are not running super complicated game plans, but how fast can you learn the game plan? How do you take coaching and apply it over the course of the week? How do you get along with your teammates? Like, you get in this whole conversation of like being the alpha and all this other crap. You guys sort of gravitate towards you. Are you sort of a loner in that scenario? Like all these things are being evaluated in addition to having the stuff that everybody gets, which is the interviews. But you have a unique perspective when you are a coach going through these guys on the field. And the Browns have, since Andrew Berry has been the GM of this team, they have taken at least 2 players from the Senior Bowl every year. And on one occasion, they took 4. So they're going to take guys from this event. It's just a question of how many. And the fact that they have 12 picks and so many of them are late round, you could see them just add a whole bunch of guys from this event.
Yeah, you go back. Obviously, Baker Mayfield's Senior Bowl week was a little weird. He had some personal stuff going on, but if you remember when he was there for the game, and you just saw that he had that personality. You know what I'm saying? So as he was, basically the guy who was not playing, just it kind of flowed to him, and you certainly want to see that type of thing. Quarterbacks are supposed to command the room, and and certainly in a setting like this. You're going to need to know, you need quarterbacks to react quickly, even though it's going to be very, it's difficult because it's such, like you said, it is a simple playbook, but still, everything's got to flow and you only get a few days to put together and try to play some semblance of a football game. And, certainly, if everything you hear, and I'm not excluding, certainly, Dart, but everything you hear about Jalen Milroe, and now we're kind of getting a little speaking of firsthand when you hear Tommy Rees mentioned him briefly. You think this should be a guy that should walk right in there, and he walks and folks walk with him. So Senior Bowl obviously slated to start, Shrine Game as well. Great events, obviously both. Just continue to put out a great product. But it is championship weekend within the NFL. It's amazing, and I say this all the time. There's not the rapid pace of how the NFL season moves. Just blows your mind. I mean, you literally go from that first Thursday night, and it seems like Isaiah Likely's toe was on the line yesterday in week 1, but now here we are, obviously 4 to get to 2 to get to 1. Washington Commanders headed, of course, to Philly to face the Eagles at the 3:00 game. The 6:30 Buffalo Bills, Kansas City Chiefs. Certainly start with Washington and Philly. My first gut is, Pete, that I think if Philly plays the way they played against the Rams, it might not be good enough this week to beat Washington. I think the thing that I really find impressive about Washington is after they beat Tampa, and when a team kind of realizes they're playing with house money and goes out there and just can play more loose, play with it, because you saw any mistake Detroit made, it kind of just felt like everything just tightened up for them a little bit more, and certainly giving up 28 points in the second quarter to a road team in your building in a playoff game just will take the living life out of you. But Washington, Philly, it's the third time. I don't know what you can truly take of the second game, certainly because Jalen Hurts not really a part of that one, but Washington, Philly, round 3.
Can you pause it real quick? I got to do something. The Eagles, my concern basically revolves around, can Jalen Hurts not kill his own team? Because
the other thing is, he going to be alive? Because he went down the one time on Sunday, and it was like, oh, look at the left knee. And meanwhile, I'm looking at the right knee. Then I looked at the left knee on the replay. I think he hurt both his knees. Yeah,
I mean, that is certainly a factor. He claims he's just throwing a brace on and playing with it, but like,
Toradol everywhere.
There were times where he was like, it seemed like he was just going to kill his team. So that's my big concern for them. But like overall, Philadelphia's defensive line is just too much. I think I thought Sam Cosmi going down last week was going to really hurt them. I think this week is death. Jaden Daniels was phenomenal. He was everything he needed to be to win that game. He was Superman. I just think the Eagles have too many things that are going to cause him problems. Nolan Smith is exactly the guy you want to have against this type of player. In addition to the fact that Jalen Carter was unblockable in part because the right guard turned it down multiple times at the end of the game. And then just the weapons. I don't think Washington has great DBs either. Now, the weather may be still terrible, but, A.J. Brown normally comes down with that ball. You have those guys that I think are going to be enough. And ultimately, I don't think Washington has enough answers for Saquon Barkley. If I was Dan Quinn, I would go right to what Jim Schwartz did, because Jim Schwartz to this point has done the best against Saquon Barkley against anyone against him all year. 20 touches for 49 yards. Far and away the best. If he could do that, Washington will win. But I don't think they can. I just think, again, this is where Philadelphia's talent is just too much.
Well, just to check here real quick, it does not look like there really will be an issue weather-wise, and you could probably get a game at kickoff on Sunday, probably somewhere in the mid-30s. And let's be honest, that's probably a dream scenario for this time of the year for any outside game. No precipitation as of now in the forecast. I got to be honest. I truly think I can't even believe I remember talking about the schedule release, and we talked about it in reference to Washington and when the Browns were going to play them. We didn't realize they were already going to be off the rails by then. What'd you say? This was a team you wanted to get really, really early because we thought
get them now.
Because we thought it was the potential that something was, like they did a great job, and they were asking a lot of guys, because a lot of guys they signed, it was, hey, you guys were great role players, great contributors. But now it's going to be where you're in the scenario to step up a tad bit more. And they kind of hit on a lot of them. I'm going to put it out there. I think Washington is just going to win this game. And I think Jaden Daniels, and, you might need him to Lamar this a little bit, where it's going to be, hey, I might have to get closer to 100 yards rushing here. I think the future for Washington is to find that Derrick Henry type. So where you just have the defense on their heels at all given times. I think Washington, and, certainly in a game 3, it's weird, because, somebody may find something on the other guy, but this is my upset pick here. So, you're going to give me Washington. This could most likely be the one to decide.
You were tied all this time. This is where you make that fateful choice to lose.
And maybe if I had taken the Rams, they complete that 4th down pass, and they were only down 6. So, so we're there. That now Buffalo, Kansas City. I think the oddest thing about last weekend is if we said the next day, man, Josh Allen threw for 126 yards. You would have figured Buffalo got boat raced. And you would have been waiting for where's the 3 INT? No, absolutely not. And, first things first, everybody leave Mark Andrews alone. For God's sakes, a great player didn't come up with one. It happens. Certainly inopportune, no doubt about it. And the city of Buffalo, all those people raising money first. I mean, that's just great community type of thing right there. Buffalo at Kansas City. Enough about the referees, for God's sakes. And my first point to all of this is, show me the star player in any sport, in any time, in any era that didn't get the calls. It's just a fact of life. It's just the way it goes. And some of them, look, when two guys try a Malachi crunch as the quarterback sliding, I get it. And Pete and I had talked about this last weekend. There is that thought of, well, if I'm going to get 15, I might as well just finish the job. And if it leads to me getting told I'm out of here and I'm out, but maybe 15's out, it's definitely something, that I'm sure some guys are, aggravated with that type of premise. But, Buffalo, Kansas City, Buffalo was obviously the one that, gave Kansas City, the blemish that mattered, that really counted in the regular season. Bills, Chiefs, and then the question would be, Pete, like we talked about with, the collegiate semifinals, is this your Super Bowl?
It probably is. I think Buffalo's got a better shot than they have in a few respects. I think the size and physicality of the offensive line genuinely creates a problem.
They're big dudes.
And James Cook was able to run the ball effectively. So you didn't.
James Cook does not get the credit he deserves as far as when they talk about top running backs in the NFL.
Certainly, Josh Allen being able to run was big for them early. But, again, whatever James Cook is able to do, they are giving him space to do it. what I worry about for the sake of the Bills, it's third and 7. It's 3rd and 8. You've got to complete a pass. Who's the guy? Is it just Shakir? Is Amari Cooper going to – is this the Amari Cooper game? Like that's the part where I sit here and go, I don't know what's going to happen in that circumstance. And I think the Chiefs are really good at being able to cover and take those things away. So I think Buffalo has to be able to assert their will up front and control the football game from that way, that standpoint. If they can do that, I think they've got a really good shot. The flip side of that, Buffalo's pass rush is awful. And I've been complaining about this for years. They cannot rush the passer when it matters. All credit to Lamar Jackson on the touchdown they threw before the two-point conversion. He could have made a sandwich. There's nobody even trying. They were just gassed.
It wasn't like Lamar magic. It was just like, well, if you're going to give me 7 seconds to figure it out, I'll take my time.
He did a great job that whole drive. He did a great job reading the defense. He did everything he's supposed to do. It was a great drive. But you are watching the Bills pass rushers just standing there at the line of scrimmage doing nothing. And that becomes a really big problem when you've got, Xavier Worthy and you've got Hollywood Brown and you've got Travis Kelce that can just sort of space things out enough where if you're going to give him all that time, or he's just going to run it himself and create that. The part where I think the Buffalo Bills defense has an interesting matchup is going to be Matt Milano probably following Travis Kelce around the entire game. He will do a significantly better job than either the opponents the Chiefs have faced previously. The dude on the Texans looked like Robert Spillane in the 2020 playoff game against the Browns. They just found him every play and said, we're throwing at him. So that's a huge problem. I think ultimately, I just don't think Buffalo's going to be able to pull it off. In the end, I think whether it's some call or something that, the big thing I give credit to the Chiefs with is they are really good at the high leverage, high stress situations that you have to get right. And that was such a big deal for them to beat Houston. Houston crumbled in those moments. They just haven't been there. The Kansas City Chiefs just crush it. And they are so good that it always feels like, or has often felt like, they just wait till the other team crumbles and they just capitalize. And Buffalo certainly has a ton of experience, but they haven't done it. And I think that's ultimately the difference in the game. It certainly, I think Buffalo's capable, but I just think the Chiefs are too good.
Again, just, real quick, this looks like, it'll probably start, somewhere around 30 degrees in the mid 20s. It doesn't look like the weather. Not that I think it would really matter in this game. It's not, something that's going to be an issue for either of these teams, certainly. Buffalo, this is where the rubber's going to meet the road for me with Buffalo is, you made this plan and went away from Diggs, and now it is all on Josh Allen. And this is kind of where I agree with you, though. Who's going to be the guy that's going to be in sync with Josh Allen in key, huge situations? Amari Cooper, who's barely been a factor. And, look, for anybody, the Browns, that, we get on moves, we judge every move. Moving him and getting a pick that's probably going to be 93 or 94 in round 3 was a fantastic get, no doubt about it. And you might not even, who knows, just a great move for them. It's something that's going to probably pay a decent dividend for them. Maybe the tight ends, and it is all on Josh. Kansas City, this is so common for them. And they show zero, nerves in games like this. And there's been times where there was 12 seconds left, and they found a way to win one of these games or extend one of these games. And it just feels like that continues. And, Kelce, I don't know, if it's the fact that he's dinged up. And then once he gets that 2-week break, well, actually it was in this scenario, I guess it was 3, it puts him in a better position. But, these guys just know how to go to a different level this time of year. So I'm with you. I think Kansas City wins. I think Buffalo, it's going to come down to, they made some mistake that they just were not able to overcome. So obviously both of us on the Chiefs here. So looks like for the deciding game, unless it's a Super Bowl, it's going to come down to the Commanders and the Philadelphia Eagles as we championship Sunday, 2 weeks, Super Bowl Sunday, and then another season in the NFL. Absolutely in the books. He is Pete Smith. Make sure you're checking out everything, Pete and the other guys over at the OPR, the written content coming fast and furious. And the best thing about it is with having a guy like Jack Duffin around, it doesn't really matter what hours you keep. There's always something coming from the OBR. I thought I am up early. And I wake up to, Jack, basically telling everybody, hey, I got this out and submitted already. So check all that out. Pete's Senior Bowl prep piece, obviously out there as well. Again, as always, we appreciate everybody, following, subscribing, to the channels here for your video and your audio content, following the written work, certainly over at the OBR. And of course, making sure that you can, look into that insider package. It is a great thing, a great resource here. It's a shame that more mainstream, Cleveland media does not want to maybe throw a bone every now and then. That stuff just is what it is sometimes. But for those of you who have it, you know it, and obviously, you get it, and we appreciate you all for all that. As for now, look, just hope everybody has a great weekend. Enjoy Championship Sunday. Again, these games are, winding down fast and not many left, so enjoy every bit of them. This has been your daily delivery of all things Dog Pound. Browns 3D, brought to you by the OBR. Everybody, have a great weekend.